Okay, what's up? Let's get right off into this, man. I was watching a video earlier, right, on Dagger Squad, and I heard Brother Garfield make a point about Christianity and Egypt and the Greek world, the Hellenized world, and it got me to thinking. And it got me to thinking because I've heard him say this more than once, over and over and over, and it's kind of been something that he's been saying over and over, building up to his debate with Jabari about Christianity. And instead of me quoting what he said, I'm going to play this recording for you guys real quick so you guys can hear exactly what he said. And then I'm going to respond to that. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to debate with the brother. I respect his scholarship. I respect his information. I respect what he knows. Okay, but I'm really just putting this out there because I've heard him say it over and over. So I know that there's people out there that have heard him say it over and over. And I just want to propose an answer to the question that he asked. So here's a small little clip from the video that I saw.
At the time at all, or are you saying that those books? Okay.
Let's take out the pastorals. Because there's a controversy about the pastorals and there's controversy about some of Paul's writings. So let's deal with the 7 of Paul's writings, that's legit, the New Testament, and a bunch of them. Now look at this now. If your religion is based off of Jesus, how does Egypt get in the picture then? Because the disciples who are illiterate, who can't read and write, how the hell they gonna know Medu Neter to pass on the information from the Egyptians to themselves and to people who are illiterate like them? So when you say Egypt come in the picture later. These are illiterate people who can't read and write. So how they gonna know about nothing in the Medu Neter? You see, this is what kills that.
But Garfield.
Okay, so he's basically saying that for an individual to make the suggestion that elements of Christianity come out of Egypt, he's basically saying that the individuals who created Christianity would have had to been able to read the Medu Neter on the walls in Kemet to actually understand what the people in Kemet, what the people in Egypt thought, taught, and believed in order for that information to wind up in the Bible. And I'm saying that is fundamentally flawed. The individuals who started Christianity, the early founders of Christianity, they did not have to be able to read the Medu Neter on the walls in order to incorporate Egyptian ideas and Egyptian stories into the Christianity or the Christian theology. And I'm going to really quick, I'm going to provide several sources that are going to show that the information in Egypt was not a big secret, okay? You did not have to be able to read it off the walls to get this information, especially in the Roman Empire, especially even right there in Judea to a Jew, right? You did not have to be able to do this to get this information. This information was widely known at this time. So the first thing that I want to go to, I want to show you guys this. All right, this is Herodotus. Okay, now if you look in Herodotus' work called the Histories, and you look at book 2, okay, now Herodotus was a Greek. Let me say this: Herodotus was a Greek who lived from around 484 to 425 BCE. Okay, so this is 400 to 500 years before Christianity. We're going to see if people already had a basic working understanding of things that was on the walls in Kemet, okay? So Herodotus the Greek has a book out called the Histories. Now, if you go to book 2 of the Histories, it's all Egypt. He talks about what he saw when he went to Egypt. He talks about the stories of some of the gods from ancient Egypt. He talks about how the Greeks themselves claim that they learned the names of their gods from the Egyptians. He even talks about how the Egyptians practiced sacrifices, and he says that he got information about the Egyptians that he did not want to put into the book because they were of a priestly nature. Now, I'm not saying that if you read Herodotus, you are going to see what came from Egypt that is reproduced in Christianity. What I am doing is I'm showing you an actual source that says an individual was able to get information about Kemet without being able to read the actual walls. Not only could an individual read Herodotus' work, right, but the same way Herodotus got this information talking to people, other individuals could get this information talking to people, or other individuals could get this information from talking to people who read Herodotus' work. Okay, so it wasn't a big secret. Herodotus, the histories, that's one source. Now let's look at this. Okay, there was a guy named Alexander the Great. Okay, now he conquered Egypt in around 332 BCE. After he died, one of his high-ranking soldiers, one of his high-ranking officials, took over as pharaoh in Kemet, a man named Ptolemy. Now, this began the Ptolemaic dynasty, right? And from the late 300s, right after Alexander's death, until the Roman era, somewhere around 30 BCE, the Ptolemies, the Greek Ptolemy family ruled, and there were Greeks in the land. Okay, so right there, we see again that after Herodotus, we see Alexander conquers Egypt. We see Greeks in the land of Egypt. They even form a capital city named Alexandria, named after Alexander the Great. And so they are there all up and down and through Egypt's literature and Egyptian stories. They're talking to each other. They're forcing them to teach them how to read the Medu Neter. They're beating information out of the priests. They're creating gods, Serapis. They're creating gods. That's a merger of the Ptolemies and these Egyptian gods, right? And they know what they're doing because they know some of the mythology, some of the stories about these gods, because they had conquered, and they were forcing these individuals to tell them. And there's a very interesting story about the Ptolemaic dynasty that we're going to go into a little bit later, but just remember, for around 300 years, right? Well, 2 to 300 years, Greeks ruled in Egypt. So they could have got any information that they wanted and disseminated that information in any fashion that they wanted, and individuals could have known about what the Egyptians taught and believed without having to read the Medu Neter. And these stories could have just been out there. Like, I may know something about a Chinese story and I don't know how to read Chinese. So maybe somebody just told me. I heard a conversation. Okay.
At the time at all, or are you saying that those books? Okay.
Let's take out the pastorals. Because there's a controversy about the pastorals, and there's controversy about some of Paul's writings. So let's deal with the 7 of Paul's writings. That's legit. The New Testament and a bunch of them. Now look at this now. If your religion is based off of Jesus, how does Egypt get in the picture then? Because the disciples who are illiterate, who can't read and write, how the hell they gonna know Medu Neter to pass on the information from the Egyptians to themselves and to people who are illiterate like them? So when you say Egypt come in the picture later. These are illiterate people who can't read and write. So how they gonna know about nothing in the Medu Neter? You see, this is what kills that.
Let's look at this. This is Strabo. Now, Strabo was an individual who traveled to different lands, and he wrote works called the geographies. He talked about the different what the land looked like, the geography of the lands that he traveled to. Now Strabo lived from around 64 BCE to around 25. Okay, now in book 17, he talks extensively about Egypt, right? Extensively about Egypt. Now again, I'm not saying that if you read Strabo, you're going to see what was taken from Egypt and placed into Christianity. But what I'm showing you is, the information in Kemet in Egypt was not some big secret that you had to be able to read the Medu Neter on the walls, to be able to take an Egyptian story and infuse it into Christianity. Now, real quick, I want to play with the question that Garfield posed one more time, and I just want to throw this out there that these are some answers to the question. It's easy. People traveled in and out of Egypt, and this is how they got those answers. So let me just play this. I want y'all to hear this question one more time, and we're going to continue.
At the time at all, or are you saying that those books? Okay.
Let's take out the pastorals. Because there's a controversy about the pastorals, and there's controversy about some of Paul's writings. So let's deal with the 7 of Paul's writings. That's legit. The New Testament and a bunch of them. Now look at this now. If your religion is based off of Jesus, how does Egypt get in the picture then? Because the disciples who are illiterate, who can't read and write, how the hell they gonna know Medu Neter to pass on the information from the Egyptians to themselves and to people who are illiterate like them? So when you say Egypt come in the picture later. These are illiterate people who can't read and write. So how they gonna know about nothing in the Medu Neter? You see, this is what kills that.
It does. Body better.
Hold on, but Garfield, so watch it. But you said something real deep. Watch.
Okay, so now remember, this isn't, I'm not trying to debate him, I'm not trying to debunk him, and I'm not trying to make this extensive and actually go into what these guys really say word for word. I couldn't. Right, I couldn't go in deep with this, but I want to just dispel this myth that the creators of Christianity had to be able to read the walls in Kemet, had to be able to read the Medu Neter to infuse Egyptian stories into Christianity. This stuff was common knowledge. People was all up and down Egypt by the time Christianity was started. Let's go to Manetho. Right now, Manetho was an Egyptian priest who lived during the time of the Ptolemies, right? Now, Manetho lived while the Ptolemies were in power. And now, Manetho wrote several works. And he wrote these works in Greek, okay? He wrote them in Greek. So you don't have to know Medu Neter to read the works of Manetho. Now, Manetho wrote several works. Manetho wrote the history of Egypt. So if you do Greek, you can read the history of Egypt, and then you can tell that to other people that was around you. Bing, bing. He wrote against Herodotus. He wrote the sacred book. He wrote on antiquity and religion, So he wrote about the religion in Egypt as he knew it, as an Egyptian priest and prophet himself, as a real Egyptian. He wrote this stuff in Greek. So you got the Egyptian religion in Greek during the Ptolemaic time, written by an Egyptian. You don't have to read the Medu Neter, family. He wrote on festivals, on the preparation of the Kyphi, the digest of physics, and the book of Sophist. So this man wrote about 8 books. This man was pushing books out, all about Egypt. And he wrote in Greek. Do not believe for one second that these individuals who created Christianity had to be able to read the Medu Neter in order to infuse Egyptian concepts, mythology, ideas, right, into Christianity. It was common knowledge. The teachings of Egypt. It was common knowledge, especially in that region, in that area. Now look, check this out. We're going to do another one. It's another one, right? You want to know how could they know about Egypt to infuse it into Christianity without being able to read the Medu Neter? Herodotus, the Ptolemaic dynasty, anybody from the Ptolemaic dynasty, Strabo, anybody like Strabo that visited the land, Manetho, any one of the works of Manetho, or anybody that read the works of Manetho, or anybody that talked to somebody that read the works of Manetho. Come on, the man wrote the history of Egypt in Greek. They knew, bro. They knew, fam. They knew, fam. Josephus, right? This is Josephus. Now, Josephus is a Jew, a first century Jew. Josephus lived from around 37 to 100 AD. And people might be saying, oh, that's after Jesus. That's not the point. The point is I'm showing you the accessibility of this information during that time period and, several centuries before, to show that you didn't need the Medu Neter to know what was going on in Egypt. That's all I'm trying to show you guys. Now, in one of his works, Antiquities, right? Antiquities of the Jews, he said, now this is where it's going to get kind of good. Wait a second. Antiquities of the Jews by Josephus, the Jew. So this Jew Levite, right? In book 12, he said, when Alexander had reigned 12 years, and after him Ptolemy Soter 40 years, so Alexander, then Ptolemy took over Egypt, like I told you earlier, he's recounting that history. And after him, Ptolemy Soter 40 years, Philadelphus, then he took the kingdom of Egypt and held it 40 years within one. He procured the law to be interpreted and set free those that would come from Jerusalem into Egypt and were in slavery there, who were 120,000. Stop. Holy presses. Now, I don't want to debate about the numbers. All I'm saying is, according to this right here, he's saying in Alexandria, Egypt, during the time of the Ptolemaic dynasty, before there was even Christianity, he gives a number right here. He's talking about 120,000 Jews living in Egypt with the Egyptians, with the Greeks, right? Living there in Alexandria in Egypt. Now you mean to tell me that they couldn't have learned nothing about what the Egyptians thought and believed and philosophized about, what their theology was? It was already Jews there several centuries before Christianity was even formed. So now, not even the Greeks, not even just the Romans, but the Jews were already touched by Kenny. So you want to know where could they get this information from without being able to read the Medu Neter? It was common knowledge, bro. It's common knowledge. The stuff wasn't hidden, okay? And he says, I'm not gonna read it, but then he goes on to say, where he talks about Ptolemy Soter, Philadelphia. He basically started gathering together all of the books from all around, and he made this massive library that we know as the Library of Alexandria. Okay, and so they were already gathering all these books, gathering all this information, and translating all of this information into other languages. So they were already getting these Egyptian texts and translating as much as they could into Greek. And they were translating other people's religious texts into Greek. This is where they claim to get the Septuagint from. They say that this guy, in addition to this, he wanted to get the Septuagint. He wanted to get the Jewish law translated into Greek, hence the Septuagint, the Jewish law in Greek. That's where it comes from. So that's the story. That's the story, rather. Okay. So Josephus also, in his work against the Pion, he quotes Medu Neter. So Meneto's work was still floating around even during the time of Josephus in the 1st century. It was still floating around. And he quotes Medu Neter, and he quotes what Medu Neter says about the Hyksos in Egypt. So Josephus, then let's do another one. Okay, you got this one Jewish guy. This guy's named Philo, right? Philo was another Jew. Philo lived from around 20 BCE to around 50 AD. So he lived from around the end of the 1st century BCE, and he died in the 1st century AD. So from around 20 BCE to around 50 AD. So this guy would have been living at the time, right, of Jesus, the founding of Christianity. Now, I'm not saying that in Philo's works, he wrote a lot of work, right? I'm not saying in Philo's works. I got those too. I could go into it. I got all these books I'm talking about. I could go into it. Now I'm not saying Philo wrote about Egypt, and what he wrote about Egypt is what was transferred into Christianity. But what I'm really just bringing him up for is because I just told you guys that there was Jews in Alexandria. Guess where Philo lived? Philo lived in Alexandria. So it is proof positive that it was Jews there. I'm just showing you one, and I'm showing you one that was writing, fam. Right? Now get this. Now, one of the things that a lot of Jews didn't like about Philo is because he was trying to make the Torah make sense and from a Greek perspective, like Hellenized wise, right? And so they didn't like that. But you already see this guy's meddling with this Greek literature that has already been mixed and mingled with Egyptian literature, and Egyptian literature that has already been translated into Greek. You did not have to read the Medu Neter to get this information. Okay? You did not have to read the Medu Neter to get this information. You gotta come with something a little different than that. And you got a whole lot of daggers, Garfield. I'm gonna tell you that. I'm gonna admit that. You got a whole lot of daggers, bro. And I respect where you're coming from, but you can't stick on the whole how could Egyptian thoughts end up in Christianity if they couldn't read Medu Neter. You can't get stuck on that because there's a million. It's obvious that this stuff was known. It's obvious that this stuff was known, and people just all up and down and through Egypt. They knew. And then all that it takes is word of mouth. I tell you, you tell you, you tell you, you read my work, and then I tell you, and then people talk about this kind of stuff. Now, I'm gonna go to this one, then I'm just gonna end it, right? Plutarch. Anybody know who Plutarch is? Plutarch is a Roman. He lived from around 46 AD to around 120 AD. So he lived in the first century. Now they may be saying, oh, he lived after Jesus. So how could his works? I'm not saying his works. I'm just proving that you did not need to read the Medu Neter to know about Egypt. That's what I'm showing you guys. Because these people, I'm showing you, you do not need to read Medu Neter to know about Egypt. It's a flawed point. It's a flawed point. And if you just get stuck on that, individual can destroy that. They can destroy that easily. And I'm gonna tell you something, I can go into some of these people's works and show you what some of the claims are from Egyptian concepts that people say turned up in the Bible. Oh yeah. One of the things Plutarch wrote, he wrote kind of blurry. He wrote Isis and Osiris, or so on the set, right? And he talks, and he breaks down that whole story, man. And a lot of what he says, see, you don't have a complete version of Aset and Asar's story preserved in the text that we still have, right? He has the most thorough, complete version of the story. Now, what he does tell from what we have found from the ancient world, it very well parallels very, very good. So we know that Plutarch he knew what he was talking about, bro. You know it. You know it. Once you read Plutarch and then you read some ancient scrolls about Aset and Asar, you know Plutarch knew what he was talking about. He got it from somewhere. He didn't just make that stuff up. He did. So right there in Rome, he knew the whole Osar and Aset story. The Roman knew this. So people already knew it. He knew it. Those Greeks knew it. Those Jews knew it. That was in Alexandria. They knew it. They knew it. And those Jews would travel a lot. They would travel from this place to go all the way to the temple in Judea, and they would mix and they would mingle during the time when they were going to sacrifice at the temple and during they feast days and stuff like that. These, they didn't just stay in one spot all the time. And everybody didn't move around. But there was enough moving around where one can reasonably deduce that word of mouth could carry a lot of these stories to a lot of different places. I'm gonna show y'all something real quick. In the version of the book that I got, if you have one of the books, it's going to be on another page, but in mine, it's page 12. Look what he says. Right? Look what Plutarch said when he's talking about Isis and Osiris, or Aset and Asar. The man say, boom. So great, therefore, was the piety of the Egyptians' philosophy about divine things. So he's already talking about the Egyptian philosophy about divine things. How does he know this if he couldn't read the Medu Neter? Crazy. Then he goes on to say, this is also confirmed by the most learned of the Greeks. The philosophy of the Egyptians, the philosophy of the divine about the Egyptians is also confirmed by the most learned of the Greeks, such as, then he names them, Solon, Thales, Plato, Exodus, Pythagoras, and some say even Lycurgus, going to Egypt and conversing with the priest of whom they say Exodus was a hero of, and then he say the name of the Egyptian priest that they learned it from. But this man say that Solon, Thales, Plato, Exodus, Pythagoras, and some say even Lycurgus, I went to Egypt to learn from priests before his time even came. So he's saying that this information that I'm talking about Isis and Osiris, Aset and Asar, they already knew this because the Greeks had already been going to Egypt, getting the game from the Egyptians about the Egyptian theology and beliefs and bringing it back. The Greeks, right? And now he's a Roman. You feel me? He's a Roman with that same information. And so if the Greeks had it, if the Romans had it, if this information came from these Egyptian priests, and you also had Jews inside of Alexandria, Egypt, the Jews had it too. So you can't say that if these individuals who created Christianity could not read the Medu Neter, then they could not have taken Egyptian stories and placed them into Christianity. You're out of your mind, because there were countless ways that they could have heard these stories, because this information was not hidden. It was well known. Now, again, I just want to end this. I'm not trying to debate you. I'm not trying to come for you. Hey, I love your information. I love your channel. I watch you all the time. That's why I'm even able to respond to this, right? That's why I'm even able to respond to this. And why I'm really doing this is because I made a comment in the chat. You responded to the comment that I made in the chat on the video. So I just wanted to go down a little bit thorough, because in the comment, all I mentioned was Manetho, Herodotus, Alexander, Ptolemy, Strabo, Manetho, Josephus, Philo, Plutarch, Solon, Thales, Plato, Exodus, Pythagoras, Lycurgus, and anybody they talk to, anybody that they talk to, anybody that read their books, anybody that talked to somebody that read their books, anybody that talked to somebody that read their books. Bro, you ain't got to read the Medu Neter in the 1st century AD for an individual to know what the Egyptians were saying. You got to lose that argument, bro. But thank y'all for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. It's your brother Matthew Daniels, a.k.a. Ampu, a.k.a. The Chosen Few, a.k.a. The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever. And may your memory never die. Hotel, peace. Cheers to that.
So, yeah, before I log off, right? Before I sign off, what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to support what I have going on. I want you guys to support me, support Matthew Daniels, support The Real Bookworm. I'm getting a lot of support and I appreciate it, but I want more. I want you guys to go to my website, www.therealbookworm.com, right? And I want you to check out everything I got on my website. I need some more traffic to my website. Go to my website, hit it, look through, contact me, all of that good stuff. And I also want you guys to purchase my novels, right? I'm a published author. I have 2 fiction novels and I have 1 nonfiction novel. So I want you guys to look, check this out. This is my book, Big Game Hunting. Big Game Hunting. Now this is documenting, this is nonfiction. This is documenting police corruption right here in Texas City, Texas. And this is only volume 1. I have a lot more stuff coming down the pipeline, right? I'm a prolific writer. I have a lot more stuff coming down the pipeline, but I have Big Game Hunting by Matthew Daniels, where I show with documented proof police corruption in Texas City, Texas. I want you guys to either go to my website or go to Amazon.com, and I want you guys to order this book, okay? You can get the paperback version for $10, or you can get the ebook version for $1.99. It's just $1.99. It's just $10 for the paperback. Please show your support. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, I want you, while you're on Amazon or while you're on my at my website, I want you guys to purchase my book, Suicide Note. Now, this is a fiction novel. Now, this fiction novel is about a young man named AB. He's from Dickinson, Texas, and he's a drug dealer, but he's trying to hustle his way out of the streets. So him and his best friend, a man named Steele, right? AB and Steele, they're hustling in a part of Dickinson, Texas that they shouldn't be hustling in. So while AB isn't around one day, his friend gets jumped by some drug dealers in that area and they leave him for dead. And so AB, when he finds him left for dead, he vows to get revenge for his friend. And in trying to get revenge for his friend, he's also trying to make enough money to get himself out of the streets. But in trying to get revenge, he makes a lot more enemies. And so the more enemies he makes, the more dirt he has to do. The more dirt he has to do, the deeper into the street life he gets, and the farther and farther and farther away he gets from his goal of making it out of the hood. And so this is his suicide note. It's almost like his last will and testament, the things that led up to him eventually losing his life. So I want you guys to get that book as well, right? I want you guys to get that book as well. You can get the paperback version for $15, or you can get the ebook version for 99 cents. 99 cents, man. Everybody got $1. Just order that, support what I got going on. My third novel that I have out right now is called Thicker Than Water. Now, this book is set in Texas City, Texas. Now, this is like a mystery thriller detective type of book. Okay, so what basically happens in this book, you have 2 major gangs in Texas City. One is called the South Lane Villains and one is called the Drama Side Hooligans. Now, these 2 gangs have had a truce for several years, and there hasn't been too much violence on the streets of Texas City. But for some reason, one of the gangs decides to break the truce and murders somebody that they shouldn't murder. And so when that individual is murdered, the other gang retaliates, and it begins a tit for tat, and it becomes a bloodbath on the streets of Texas City. So you have the main detective in the book, a man named Detective Derrick Rose, and you have a rookie officer named Officer Sierra Martin. They are on the case. Derrick Rose, he is the detective that is investigating the first murder, and so they have to unravel why this guy was killed, why was the truce broken, who broke the truce. And so they're trying to figure out who are these hitmen, who are these killers that is doing most of these murders for both gangs, and why are they doing it? Because they figure if they can catch the killers, and if they can figure out why this gang war started, then they can stop the gang war and bring safety and security back to the streets of Texas City. So it's like a race against the clock to stop this gang war before it gets out of hand and before too much blood spills on the streets of Texas City. So I want you guys to get Thicker Than Water by Matthew Daniels. You can get the paperback on my website, therealbookworm.com, or you can get it on Amazon.com, right? And Thicker Than Water is $17 for the paperback, and it's 99 cents for the ebook version. I would appreciate it if you guys get all of my work, so you can just have the total collection of Matthew Daniels, aka The Real Bookworm. But if one of those really just sounds good to you, you can just get that one and then get the other ones later. But I really would like the support. So this your brother, Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka The Chosen Few, aka The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, world. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotep, peace, I'm out.